5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome to Game Within a Game podcast, featuring former pro basketball player, trainer, and coach, Marquis Navarre. The podcast that talks all things basketball, but also that game played by us all, that game called life. See, being great at this game ain't easy. It takes parents, coaches, mentors, guidance to navigate the ups and downs. On Game Within a Game, Marquis speaks to the athlete, the student, the player, the parent, the trainer, and fans alike. From connections to making connections, stories and more. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify and Instagram, and of course, comment, like, share. Game Within a Game podcast. Game Within a Game podcast. With the one and only Marquis Navarre. Thanks again for tuning in to Game Within a Game podcast. The one and only Marquis Navarre. Morning, man.
Happy Thursday morning. What's good?
Yes, sir. It looks like good old Montana State alma mater made it to the tourney.
And Montana State is on the ropes. This is Patterson's putback, no. And it is over here in Dayton.
Yeah.
The Grambling State
And this dude
Tigers
came off the bench and was balling.
for the first time ever.
So yeah, they had one of these players come off the bench who usually doesn't play much, and then he had the game of his life in the second half.
That's what's up.
But very, very bittersweet for me to watch that game. I will start with just the sweet part. Just watching, like I said, my old school, like just getting to that position. I know, like when I was there, that was my goal. Like that was my ultimate goal. Like I just wanted to play in the tournament. And my junior year, we lost in the conference championship by 2 points. Which if we would have won that game, we would have went to the tournament. So I was like, yeah, there's still a wound still there. Like it still lives in me today, and still haven't really got over that. And then my senior year, when we did better, like during the regular season, but we got upset, like in the playoffs, so we didn't even get a chance to bounce back. Where, yeah, like going into college from the beginning, like I said, all I wanted to do was make it to the tournament, and but like specifically after making it there, that close my junior year, like going into my senior year, I changed all my passwords. Like everything I logged into was like NCAA tournament. Like every password, that's all I was thinking. So I was just constantly like reminded, like, this is your goal. This is what we want to get accomplished. And yeah, like it was so it was good to see them get to that point, especially knowing how the conference works and all the other teams, like University of Montana, like it's always historically a good team, Weber State. But, you know, Portland State was the team that kind of got in our way when we were there. And my junior and my senior year, they were the team that eliminated us. But again, it was yeah, just kind of, like I said, just opened a lot more, like reopened some wounds of me not making it to the tournament myself. And like I said, since I graduated, like it's hard for me to watch college basketball. Like I rarely actually sit down and watch a college basketball game because yeah, it just bugs me like that I didn't get to get that ultimate goal. And also now with the playing style as well. Like I actually prefer watching the pro style of play because I mean, like I said, the shot clock's different, like 24-second shot clock compared to 30, I think it's 33 seconds now in college, where college there's a lot of like false like movement, false actions just to run a play, where like pro level, NBA level, you just like you're just playing in those actions. But yeah, I was proud of the how they represented the program though. Like I said, to actually make it to the tournament, like the play-in, but the tournament. This is the third year in a row the team made it to the tournament, and it started off with Coach Danny Sprinkle, he's a head coach at Utah State right now, and the previous 2 years he was a head coach at Montana State, and he's a former Montana State player. And when I went on my recruiting visit, he was the coach that hosted me. So he picked me up from the airport, and he was the one that was driving me around everywhere. But unfortunately, during that summer, he also got signed to Cal State Northridge as an assistant. So that year, I never got to play for Coach Sprinkle. So I met him, got the tour, but I never got to actually play for him. So, but just seeing his success that he's had, like just from a distance, like he still is a Bobcat, because like I said, he did go to Montana State. So, so when he came back to the school, there was a lot of excitement when he came back to coach. And again, like he turned that program around and made us into like a winning program. Again, building us into the Big Sky champions the previous 2 seasons. And now with the new coach coming in this season, you know, he had to rebuild it. You know, a lot of players left with Coach Sprinkle, and he had to rebuild like some of the players, but the culture was still there as far as winning. And so he did a good job of stepping in and just like, you know, taking it from where Coach Sprinkle left. And, you know, even watching the game, they talked about how those 2 coaches are in communication pretty much every single day. And Coach Sprinkle is like big supporter, Coach Loggy. So again, it was dope. It was dope to see them on the big stage, and I like how they competed and how they represented the program. But also, again, yeah, just it was kind of salty for them not to get that dub, especially the way the game went. You know, they were winning. They were up big in the first half, and then, you know, like I said, this, you know, Grambling State came in the second half and just kept fighting, kept playing, and they had somebody spark them off the bench, and then their whole team got energy from there. But yeah, overall, like I said, I'm proud of the program, but yeah, I want to see them win.
Yeah, that's what's up. Bittersweet. Always good. But you talk about the culture. Before we get into some more salty topics, just talk about that culture that it takes to get to that level, and then also the culture that you're talking about referencing Montana State. What is that culture, and what is that type of, I guess, mindset that they have that got them to this point?
Well, like you said, to get to college or get to tournament, or
you said just the culture of Montana State and the culture that when you were there, and the coach had to kind of keep that same culture or create a new culture. Just talk about the culture that you experienced, and then the culture that you've seen just from watching, obviously on TV from afar, and how that's still cultivating some type of winning culture, similar to when you were there.
Well, yeah, I think, like I said, I think when I was there, again, I think when I first got there, when we had like the preseason rankings and where you were going to land, like we were kind of in the lower half of the conference. So we didn't have the, I guess, like on paper, we didn't look like we were the greatest team, but we had a good group of guys coming in, and with the guys that were already there, we had a lot of talent on our team, and it was just a matter of like putting it together. And we finished our season my junior year. I think we finished like 6th place. We're like the last team to get into the tournament, to the conference tournament. But for us, again, like we always kind of had like this underdog kind of mentality in a sense, because being the state school, like we were smaller, and even the state of Montana, we're the two big colleges, but University of Montana is the big college, you know. So we kind of were seen as kind of like the underdogs in a sense, or the little brothers, but we kind of had, you know, we had grit about us. Like we had a lot of, just a lot of grit. And like I said, I don't know if it was just because like the weather and getting adjusted to the weather, but yeah, a lot of just like a country tough. I would that was kind of how I explain it now.
Yes, so.
But yeah, I think I would like to say like we had a little bit of we had a success because again, when I was there, when we made it to the conference tournament, like that was the first time we made it into this conference tournament in a very long time. So it was kind of like, I would say like when I was there, we had a piece of like the winning culture, but we didn't have that little bit of edge to just get over the line. So I feel like that's what Coach Sprinkle, when he came back to the program, he brought that little bit of extra, you know, the little bit of difference between being a like a good program to like a great program now. And from the outside watching it and from a distance watching it, like it just looks like there's more like togetherness. Like there's actually like, you know, Ubuntu is the phrase and the word that he's used a lot, which, you know, like Doc Rivers used with the Celtics. And basically it's a we, not me mentality. It's a we represent like, you know, each other. You know, your success reflects on my success and vice versa. So I think when I was there, like we didn't have enough time, and probably we didn't do a really good job of really like buying into each other as a whole, I would say. I think we had a lot of individual talent, and we just didn't have enough time to actually gel it together the right way. So from a distance, like watching the program, it looks like that's the difference. Like they actually had the chemistry and the care that actually like just puts them over the hump. You know, you can see how they celebrate for each other, like when they're on the bench. And as you said, I had the coaches, like, you know, Coach Sprinkle, not only like he's at his new program, you know, he has his own things to worry about and his own like coaching to do there, but he still talks and they're still connected with the current coach. So that just shows like, again, that just shows how like wanting, like putting the program like on the forefront and not like, you know, individuals. So I would say that's what I kind of see as the biggest difference between the two cultures. Like both got talent, like great talent from when we played, but also this team now. But I can see the togetherness. I feel like when I was playing my team, we had subunits. Like we all came together, but we did have a lot of subunits, which what's a common thing you see in a lot of programs. And that's the difference between just being a, you know, average to good or good to great. It's like, how well do you actually buy into each other and put the program first?
Yup. That difference, whether it's a big difference or a little difference, something has to be different in order to separate yourself from the rest as a team and as an individual. Speaking of individuals, specifically individual college players, individual professional players, the individual sacrifice it takes to make it to the next level. You talked about we, not me, and a lot of times the athlete ends up taking on that individual sacrifice for the whole, for a lot of families sometimes, for a lot of friend groups, legacy, family, whatever it may be. That individual is sacrificing a whole lot, from family time to friendship time to missing out on birthdays and events, etc. But talk about a little bit on the sacrifice it takes to play at that level and the things people don't see.
Man, I mean, like sacrificing. That's the biggest, like a huge piece of the pie that you said, like the piece that people don't really see. Like, like for me, I grew up in Oceanside. My whole family's here in Oceanside. But like one of the biggest sacrifices I had to make was just leaving home. And, my first stop was like I left home. I went to Marshalltown, Iowa. That's where I went to junior college before I went to Montana State. So going from to Marshalltown, Iowa, and then straight from Marshalltown, Iowa to Montana State. And so just on that journey, again, I had to really sacrifice a lot of my friends growing up and just my family time and just being in a place where I was comfortable, where I knew everyone and everyone knew me and I knew my way around. I had to learn a whole new lifestyle, just to be able to chase that dream. And and as that happens, like you said, you miss out on a lot of like your own personal family, like time. And, I had nieces and nephews, you leave, to go to college. They're all little. You can pick them up in your arms and then you come back there. They almost like looking you eye to eye, and you miss so much time in between. And that's like I said, that's one of the biggest parts where, where a lot of people don't realize going into the journey because they just focus solely on the dream. And there's so much like just making it there. But then when you get there, you realize then there's another part that you have to sacrifice more. There was a sacrifice that it took to get to that point. But then once you get to that point, it's like now you have to sacrifice even more once you get to this point. So that's that's a big part of the process. And I think a lot of players like go through that. I can remember for me personally, one of the most memorable times where I remember, I think it was my junior year when I was at Montana State, and it was Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is actually like my favorite holiday. Like it's always been my favorite holiday. And it was my favorite holiday because that was the holiday that all my family got together. Like we would go up to LA, and like my grandparents' house is up in LA. So, cousins, uncles, everybody is there. And I remember during this, we're in the middle of the season. We were traveling back from, I think we were traveling back from Seattle. We played like a exhibition game or something against Washington State. And so it's Thanksgiving Day. Like in my head on Thanksgiving, I wake up, like I can already smell sweet potato pie. As soon as I wake up, I'm like, yeah, it's Thanksgiving Day. But this day we had to travel like back from one of our games to get back to school. And like the airport is just cold, it's empty. Like, and then then when it's time to eat food, I ate some Panda Express, like on Thanksgiving. And I'm just sitting here like the rice, it was all cold and it wasn't even like, I'm like, this ain't Thanksgiving, man. This is not the Thanksgiving. And I was so sad. Like, I was so sad because then I'm looking there. And then at the time you look on Facebook, you see all your fam together. They over here hugged up. They all like laughing, playing games, having the time of their life. And, like I said, I'm eating some stale Panda Express food. And like I said, this is my favorite holiday, and I see all my family enjoying it while, like I said, I'm traveling back from a game that I'm pretty sure we lost as well. That was probably the other part of it. So, sacrificing those big holidays and just family time just so that you can chase the dream because, because most cases you can't take your family and you can't take your friends to work with you, So So yeah, that's
crazy how you explain that, and then you think about the tournament right now and all the people, one, betting on the games, doing their brackets, super excited, the adrenaline and everything like that. And then you think about moments like that, and it's like you got a split screen, a dude excited making a bracket, getting it in, and then you eating some cold ass rice, sad as fuck, because Thanksgiving is there. It's like just thinking about that dynamic. As obviously Thanksgiving and a tournament not at the same time, but I'm speaking of specifically from the fans' perspective and the players' perspective, like a lot of people don't see, like, why you cheering and wish, I wish I could have did that. That's cool. Ooh, that player right there is like the sacrifice to get there. And we're like, once again, we only see the glory and we don't see the pain at the end of the day. So yeah, that's intense. But your specific battle, going back again to the We Not Me, and going through this process as a father, and having to kind of balance that life and that role, and the mental challenges of just being a student athlete, period, and then a professional, period. That alone by itself is massive, especially being away from home and everything like that. As you mentioned, the homesickness and the adapting to weather and different things like that. But adapting to fatherhood is an entirely different world in and of itself. So speak about having to deal with both of those things and still maintain a level of both confidence and some type of joy, obviously, because having a son is incredible, but at the same time battling the sacrifices that are still being made to attain the goal that you met and the goal that you're continuing to try to keep.
Man, yeah, like fatherhood is like, yeah, probably the fatherhood is the biggest sacrifice. And I think that basketball is one thing, like you said, it's a game within the game. And basketball has helped me practice sacrificing, like sacrificing for my teammates, sacrificing my own, like learning how to sacrifice myself for the betterment of the group. And fatherhood for me is, that challenge and that sacrifice has been, a huge one. And my situation is different than a lot of other like fatherhood situations, because my son actually is living overseas, like my son is living in Italy and I live in Oceanside, California. But at the same time is like, it's not similar into a lot of like the way I grew up, where my dad was totally disconnected from my life, like where he wasn't there with me. And I didn't really have a relationship with him. Like I have a relationship with my son, but it's, there's this big difference. There's time difference and space difference. Like we're in totally different places, but again, like I continue to have to, I continue to sacrifice for what's better for him. Every day, I still wake up and the work that I do is for him. And but also just not letting my own kind of ego or my own story kind of get in the way of my son's like upbringing is like this biggest sacrifice that I have to deal with, because as much as I want to cling on to my son, like my son is my favorite person in the world. But with our situation and everything, like it's actually better for him to be with his mom. It's better for him at this moment to be just in an environment where they can provide that stability, at his age right now, having a kid just bounce from house to house is not country to country, and just not having stability just because, I want him near me. Is like I said, that would be my personal preference. But again, like to sacrifice for the betterment of the whole, like, I got to trust that, his mom and like her support and her family, loves him and cares for him just as much as I do. And, I just got to allow that, remove my own trauma to allow him to experience that relationships with his other side of his family and to grow that. And like I said, it's a huge challenge every day. It's huge sacrifice because, like, I want, like I said, I want my son with me every day. Like, there's no really other way I can really put that. And it sucks not to be with him. Like, it does suck. So dealing with those emotions, of not, not having it my way is a part of, what I deal with every day.
Yeah, and speaking of fatherhood, and that's deep and complex, and probably can dive into that in a numerous ways, but for another dad show, not basketball. But yeah, speaking of fatherhood, just to stay on that, in conjunction to basketball and coaching, obviously your son now and as he gets older is going to see more of you, and you as a dad to teach our kids how to become a man. The battles they're gonna encounter in the future, etc. Sometimes we got to be more vulnerable. We got to a little bit more transparent. They may see a lot more in you and from you, the good, the bad, the ugly, than your players that you coach. And that's then going to my question and into that in conjunction with coaching and parenting. How much vulnerability should a coach give, and how much transparency should a coach give to his players? Because obviously the players are not his sons, but you do as a man, anytime you're in this place of leadership, whether you're leading grown men or young men, you are in a place of father-sonship type of relationship, because in a way you have to trust them, you got to follow them, and essentially that is a father-type relationship. You're trusting, you're following, and you're believing in that person and everything they say. But when it comes to coaching, how do you kind of tread that line to be like, yo, I want them to look up to me, believe in me, and have passion, the same passion I have. And sometimes that takes vulnerability, sometimes that takes transparency, but at the same time, I am not their dad. So like, how do you kind of deal with that and balance that to develop that relationship with your players?
Oh man. I think that's a really good question. And for me personally, that's something that, like, trying to find that balance of, like I said, how much, like I said, vulnerability, or how much of myself do I put myself in that father figure role for my kids or for the players that I coach, compared to just like, I'm just going to stay in my coach's spot. And for me, like I said, I heard Tupac say this in an interview where he said, like, I'm not a role model, I'm a real model, so for me personally, that's kind of the approach that I take, where, like, I do struggle with just separating and just being just coach. Like, I do take and put on that hat of being that father figure role as your coach, because again, that's just how it was for me. That's how I grew up. Like, with basketball, like, my coaches were the people that I looked up to as father figures, because I didn't have a father figure at home. So I learned that approach because that's how I grew up as a player. And as I started coaching, all the stories that would come to me, not just players who didn't have fathers, but even the kids who had fathers, how much they needed another father, third father to either support them along the way. Because, like, the old African proverbs, it takes a village, so I do, like I said, I do try to put myself in that position where, like I said, I'm going to try to care for you as much as I can as a father figure, instead of just like a coach where I'm just worrying about wins and losses, where I'm just worrying about the record. Like, I try to put myself as much as possible, like, to care about you as a person, outside of the game. Like, obviously, the magnet and the reason we're here is the game. But like I said, I feel like I have the responsibility to grow you, like, as a player, but also as a person. And I think, as you said, because in the world that we live in, and especially being a man where like being vulnerable is like something that is not the most common thing. So like I like to be the person to be that example for young men, to show them that, you know, it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to not actually, you know, it's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to go through struggles. So it's okay to be in pain. All these things are okay, because I feel like we've been programmed to believe that none of this is okay. And when you live like that, you start walking around all the time, and all this stuff starts to build up in you. And if you don't have a way to release it, or you don't have someone to actually talk through with it, then that can lead to a bigger problem. So, you know, I rather, you know, display my weaknesses out in the open, and then hopefully that can help us like find solutions.
Yeah, I think that does separate the coach from the great coach. And in your opinion, because you hear players talk about it all the time, specifically most recent, not necessarily a coach, but a boss, if you will, Mark Cuban, hiring a private chef to fly out, you know what I'm saying, for Kyrie, for Ramadan and stuff, make sure he has a vegetarian type meal when the sun goes down, et cetera. But that type of attention to detail to your players, attention to what they care about outside of the game. And you hear professional players talk about it, you hear younger players talk about it, from college to the pros, when they reference great coaches whenever they're doing a special on a coach. And one of the main common themes amongst the players is, oh yeah, one time I came in and he just noticed I wasn't feeling good. And he was asking me how I'm doing. He didn't even know that a family member passed away. He told me to leave and go take care of that. And it's those attention to detail to the person, like we talked about last time, that separates the regular coach from a great coach. And I like how you said wins and losses, because a lot of times you can tell from just watching a game what kind of coach they are, from how their players react to the wins and losses, and then how they react and kind of interact with their players during the wins and losses, and see how that coach's focus is X and O's or actual human beings and children that I'm helping raise to be men.
Yeah, I think that's that's a good point. And like just going back to my journey, and like I said, even like playing at Montana State, where, like I said, my whole life I had coaches, like, again, they played like my father figure role, and they checked on me as the person. And like growing up all the way from club ball, then I went to high school with Coach Johnson. And then when I left for Coach Johnson, when I went to Marshalltown, Iowa, with Coach B, like this guy looked after me. Like I knew when I got there, like this dude had, like, he was taking care of me as a person. Like he, you know, he make sure I had housing. He made sure, you know, he got me an EBT card. He did all these things, make sure I had, at that time I had to do all this makeup, like academic work, where most coaches were like, yep, yeah, I'm not going to do all this extra work to help you catch up on your work. But he, like you said, he really looked after me for, like, as a person. And I had no problem, like, you know, you hear players say that I'll run through a wall for that coach, you know? And my idea was, you know, because I've had that of my whole life, my idea was, you know, again, thinking about college basketball, I felt like that was going to be the pinnacle of everything. So I was expecting getting to Division I basketball, and that was going to, like, my coach there was going to care the most about me as a person. Like, he was actually going to be, like, do that more than my other coaches. But once I got there, I actually experienced the opposite, where because it's at that level, because it's the stakes that are there, like the wins and losses were way more important than who I was at that time. And that's the experience that I felt, and I experienced at the Division I level. So it was actually, it was mind-blowing for me. That was like the biggest, like, part of the process I had to go through, whereas, like, when I first got to Montana State, like I said, on my recruiting visit, they take you out to steak dinners, like you eating fancy, you staying in a nice hotel. But when I actually arrived to school now, so I signed my letter of intent, went back, I come to school for summer school. I go to my apartment. So then my roommate at the time, Cam, he already came to school like a couple weeks before I got there. So then when I arrived, they're like, oh, you're staying with Cam. So I'll go to Cam. Hey, what's up, Cam? Da-da-da-da. His room's there. He got his blow-up mattress he got there. I go in my room. It's empty. Like, no bed, no hangers, no nothing. It's just an empty room. Just a floor and the walls. So then I'm like, yeah, where's all my stuff at? Like I thought this was going to be set up here. And they're like, you didn't bring none of that stuff with you? So then I was like, nah, I didn't know I had to bring none of this stuff with me. So then so now I'm like, whoa, like I don't have no bed. I don't have no covers. I don't have none of this. So then I got there on this like emotional high. Like, yeah, I finally made it. Like this is about to be it. And then I get there. I don't even have I don't even have a bed. I don't even have covers. I don't have a pillow. So then when I go to coach, like, just kind of his response was just like, again, it was just like, yeah, you don't have this stuff with you? And I was like, nobody talked about none of this stuff like this whole time. Like, I told you how excited I was, and you said how excited you were. Everybody was excited, and I thought I was just supposed to be living the dream. You were just taking me to steak dinners and everything. Now you didn't tell me I wasn't gonna have no pillow. And so that was a huge part of like the start of our relationship. And from that point and throughout my rest of the career there, it always seemed like that's what I was trying to figure out. Like, does this dude care about me as a person? Does this program care about me as a person? Do anybody around here care about me as a person? And we probably have like you said, maybe we have to do a premium, like some exclusive content to really go into probably the darkest time that I actually went through there, like going through, like feeling like, do I care as a person to these people here,
Yeah,
but
stay tuned for that. We're gonna keep that because that's some good stuff. So stay tuned for Do They Care for Me as a Person? The premium content coming soon, hopefully within the next week. And what you don't ever have to assume is if Coach Marquis cares for his players. Thanks again for listening to Game Within a Game. This podcast is sponsored by Marquis Basketball. Visit Marquis Basketball on Instagram at Marquis Basketball or call 760-213-4936. If you're a basketball player that wants to improve your game and take it to the next level, or a parent seeking to have your child learn the game the right way, Marquis Basketball is the place to be. The place to grow, the place where basketball dreams become a reality. Message Marquis on Instagram at Marquis Basketball or call Marquis at 760-213-4936. Marquis Basketball, coaching and training for the next generation. Yes, sir. Thanks again for tuning in to Game Within a Game podcast. Within the game, holding the ball, off the ball, specifically the pump fake. Break down the importance of the pump fake, the different kinds of pump fakes, and why it's more than just a metaphorical thing, because you see a lot of kids, it's like they pump faking in their head. They're not actually doing the pump fake. So just talk about and break down the importance of the pump fake and how it can enhance and increase your scoring ability.
Man. So, yeah, so the pump fake for me is probably my favorite fake. And I would consider it, like I said, one of the most, I guess, traditional or fundamental fakes. And now it's probably like not really looked at in the whole like Instagram training breakdown type moves. You probably wouldn't see no one break down the pump fake because it's all about the handle and the bag and doing moves off the dribble. But again, the pump fake is probably one. I'd say the jab is probably like first is jab steps. Like that's definitely the in my opinion the most important fake. But the shot fake is right there with it because again, the game is about scoring. The game is about putting the ball in the basket. So the shot fake is essentially that, faking the shot. So if there's so much emphasis on shooting and so much emphasis on putting the ball in, like that's how you score, then having an effective shot fake is like essential. And as you said, like a lot of kids, you can see them like pump faking in their minds. The key to having a great shot fake is you have to believe you're going to shoot it. Like a shot fake, and this is how explained to me, like a shot fake is a real shot that you don't shoot. You know, so you see a lot of kids who are when they're learning a shot fake, they're just like they're faking to fake. Instead of like, nah, I'm actually shooting this, and then nah, I'm not, you know. Like you gotta believe to the point like where you believe that you're shooting it. You know, I was always taught and I always trained that I need to believe this. Like, if I believe I'm going to shoot it, then my opponent definitely is going to believe that I'm going to shoot it. So every single fake, like during like my workouts where I'm just working out by myself, I'm not just like, oh, there's no one in front of me. Like I'm actually like repping it out. Like when the ball's coming to me, I'm thinking this is shot. When I catch the ball, I'm in a great shooting position. My eyes are at the rim, like, because I'm actually that's where I got to lift my eyes to the rim. And then I got to go into my normal shooting pattern. Like it can't look any different than my normal shooting flow, which again, I think when you see players who don't have that, like don't have effective shot fake, they're like skipping steps. You know, they might catch it. Like I might have their head already down. Like they're not going to lift their eyes to the rim. You know, they're just faking with the ball. You know, they're just like they change their footwork is a little bit different. So, again, to have an effective shot fake, like you have to believe you're going to shoot the ball, and then that's going to allow the defender to believe that you're going to shoot the ball. So I've seen there's different versions of it, you know, and it's evolved over time. Like, you know, the traditional shot fake, yeah, you have to like get the ball above your head. You know, that's the fundamental way. And again, get the ball and your eyes to the rim so you can like create that illusion that you're going to shoot the ball. I know this dude, I forgot where he played college, but I think he played at Pitt, but Sam Young, he played out in Australia for the Sydney Kings. And, but yeah, he played at Pitt and he played in the NBA for a little bit, but he had one of the most unique shot fakes. He had one of these where he just extend the ball super high, like almost like locked his arms out straight. So you had no choice but to really like lift up to contest. And he would use that shot fake just to get you to lift up really high and then drive it low, like just get under you. Again, like a shot fake is so important for me and for like smaller guys, because again, you got big guys who are already taller than you, and more athletic than you. You know, they want to block your shot. They always want to jump. So being able to attack, get to a certain spot, shot fake, get that big man to believe that he's going to block you, then you can make your counter from there. But again, there's different variations, as you see, like One important thing, again, is shot credibility. Now, you see, like, again, the traditional shot fake, as I said, like, head above, like, the ball above your head. But, again, if you have, like, shot credibility, I mean, like, he's a knockdown shooter. So now Steph Curry, for example, like, Steph, he doesn't really need to lift the ball because as soon as he gets space, he has that shot credibility where he's like, oh, shit, we have to get there. So if he's open and he has space and you're running towards him, he can just look at the rim. He can do a peek, you know, like Klay Thompson as well. Like, these guys are open. There's so much urgency to get there. They don't have to use the ball to fake you. They just got to look up, and then you have to get there. So that's where I've seen, like, the evolution of the shot fake, where previously, like, you weren't allowed to not shot fake without using the ball, you know. But now, again, like in certain cases, it actually it might slow you down, or it might not be the right time and place to show the ball. So again, like if you're outside the 3-point line, somebody's closing out at you with like crazy urgency, then yeah, you might just give them a eye fake, you know. And that's, like I said, that's kind of the evolution of the shot fake.
Yeah, I like that. We're gonna have to get a whiteboard in here. I think I'm serious. I think we could really enhance for those viewing.
Yeah,
what you're saying when we break down things like this, because you can get real technical. But right now it's time for Marquis Reacts. You know that part of the show where we look at some YouTube videos and Marquis gives you his thoughts, advice, and or opinion. Marquis Reacts. Let's get it.
IQ clicks on. Like, I was literally just, when you was explaining that, because I come from, I believe, great coaching. You know, from my Little League coach, Frank Walker, senior, to my, at the time, AAU coach, Coach Drew Joyce, to my high school coach, who was a former college coach, Coach Dambrot, and then my AAU coach took over when Coach Dambrot went back to college basketball. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I was taught the game the right way. But the one thing that those coaches always told me, they told me that I had an uncanny ability to process information faster than anyone they've ever seen. One coach, and this is, I know you're gonna smirk about this. There's guys in the NBA that if you call a play or a coach draw a play to one side of the floor, they can't switch it in their head and do it and say, let's run it to the other side, without the coach drawing on the clipboard.
Yeah.
I've never understood that. And I don't know, I never understood that. So if I say we're running thumb down angle, we're running on the right side, so because I have a left-hand point guard, he wants to come middle to a strong hand. He has the ability to hit the pocket pass with the left hand, has the ability to throw ahead, he's lefty, and also has the ability to throw back on the shake. But if I say, hey, we run a thumb down angle on the left side because now the right-hand guard coming right, I've had teammates that's like, oh, what do you mean? Coaches always, in practice, we only ran it from this side.
Yeah.
They were talking about new podcast, Mind the Game, with LeBron and JJ. In the beginning, before he started it a bit into it, but basketball IQ, are you born with it or can it be taught? So he breaks down how his coaches coached and his mentality. But your thoughts on basketball IQ from your experience and from a coach and a player, are you born with it or can it be taught? And I saw you nodding your head when you was talking about running plays opposite sides. Yeah. I definitely was that player in high school. Like, what the fuck? But go ahead, break that down.
I think he's right. I think, yeah, basketball IQ, I think it's definitely something that can be taught, but I think to LeBron's point, where it's like, it's how you were taught. Like, you have to be taught it from an early age, and you have to have the right knowledge from the beginning. and continue to grow and continue to have good coaches who teach you the right way, like all the way through. They said it's just no different in school. Like, just imagine if you had a terrible kindergarten teacher, terrible first grade teacher, second grade teacher. By the time you get to middle school, how much like your base of knowledge of how to do things is going to be off. So again, like having good coaching from the beginning is really pivotal so that you can really build a strong foundation that you can build on. Now, if you learn it the earlier that you learn it, then again, that's when your processing speed becomes quicker than most people, because you're like, oh, I've been doing this. Like, I'm used to this. Like, I'm used to seeing and reading the game this way. Again, and you see the difference between the players who don't have that coaching base in the beginning, where, again, as we talked about in previous episodes, where they've just been playing basketball the whole time, but they never actually learned the when, why, and how to do things. They're just doing. So when things actually get changed, they don't know how to process that, because they're not used to thinking the game. And again, for me personally, I was lucky when I started playing. I had great coaches like that really set me down, and we our car rides home after the games and to the games. Like, we're just talking about the philosophies of the game. And again, I have all these questions, and I'm like, who's a better shooter, between this 3-point shooter and this 3-point shooter, and why, and, if we had a point guard, if you had to choose a point guard to win an NBA Finals, who would you pick? Like, just having all these conversations of back and forth of like just how to play the game. And so for me, I personally had to be that player that, again, had to know the game so well so that I even had a chance. At my size, like, I had to really just be able to run the show and tell everyone where to go. So, like I said, it started off with great coaches, like, give me that foundation, us having those conversations. And then for me, like, when I was away from them, because I knew the X's and O's, like, when I was in class, I would draw out like all the plays, and I would learn it from not just my position, but I learned everyone's position. So like, I would know every single play, everyone's position, and kind of like the different kind of wrinkles we can break off, because I'll draw the play step by step, And so I know, oh, when the ball's right here, we're kind of in this position, so we can actually do this action, which is not our original play, but we can do that. I can see that. And so for me, that was so important for me to be successful as a player. And again, like LeBron, I never understood the players that couldn't pick it up, because I think I was just so used to always having these conversations. Again, my foundation from a kid, that's how I learned the game. And I see, like, I didn't have to like break bad habits and start learning new thinking ways. I would get frustrated with my teammates if, like, I would call a play or if I would flip it and then they didn't know what to do. And it's like, how do you not know it? Like, we're doing the same action. It's just on the other side of the court. And as a coach now, like, again, like coaching young kids who, I think research shows that they have a lot shorter attention spans now. Their attention spans are low. So even as a coach now, it's like all my players, like I've learned as a coach that most of the players don't listen during the timeouts. Like, they're literally using the timeouts just to recover. And as a player, I didn't even know that, because I was always coming to the huddle, like, ready to, like, let's see what's on the board, let's see what we're going to draw up. But I didn't realize that everyone was in the huddle just in there. I'm just here so I can catch my breath. So, but yeah, I think, again, if you want to be like a great player and you want to have like, you just want to like the higher your basketball IQ, the better. Because that's going to allow you to get put in any kind of team, any kind of program. Because when you actually learn the game that way, again, like when you change to another team, you understand basketball. So you might not be running the same exact plays, but they'll be running some concepts. Like you'll know the concepts. Now, if you just get so used to, like, I'm just used to running plays, like you switch teams, you have a different coach, like different scenarios, then you're like stuck. You're just like, man, I don't even know how to adjust. I'm used to just being this guy on the right corner my whole life. I don't know how to do anything else. So yeah, it goes a long way to actually really learn the game the right way and learn how to play all the positions and, like I said, both sides of the floor as well.
Athletics, the smaller the skill gap closes. If you haven't noticed, right, everybody around here is good. Everybody you play is good. It's a different level of competition. If some of you get the opportunity of going to the next level, it's even higher, right? The skill gap's even smaller. Everybody at that level is fast. Everybody can hit hard. Everybody has the mental IQ, but what will separate you? You start to realize that the biggest challenge isn't the opponent. No, the biggest challenge is who you look at in the mirror. Michael Jordan, in the pinnacle of his career, he was asked this question: Mike, what makes you the GOAT, man? What makes you the greatest of all time? They said, was it your talent, your skills, like your upbringing? What was it for you, Mike? This is his response. He said, you want to know what makes me great? I demand more from myself every single day than anyone else could possibly expect of me. I don't compete with other people. I compete with what I'm capable of. Kobe Bryant was asked the same thing. What makes you the Black Mamba, Kobe, in the pinnacle of his career? And he said this answer: every single day I chased after two things: perfection and excellence, knowing full well I would never attain either of them. But just the mere fact that I would pursue them, I would almost always beat my opponents because they would never chase after.
Cut off a bit early, but your thoughts on that?
Oh, man. So, like, every day just chasing it. And, again, just having, like, I just hear growth mindset. And, like, every day just trying to become a better version of yourself. And, yeah, for me, again, that's how you become great. Because, again, you get to a certain level, as he said, like, of greatness, or where you think you're great, but then you just entered a new realm of, like, new level of competition. And every single level that you go up, like I said, you have to be a little bit smarter. You have to be better equipped for that next group, So, for me, that was something that, yeah, it's all mindset. It's a mindset of having that growth mindset. And, like, once you stop, like, once the day that you don't try to improve that day, you got to understand, like, millions of people have passed you up on that day. They've made progress to going forward. So you always have to, like, put that effort in. As you said, like in that Kobe situation where he's like, I'm chasing perfection. Like, I'm not actually expecting to get perfection, but I have to chase perfection. Because, again, like, if you don't actually make those steps to actually improve that day, then the millions of people in that same competition have made those steps. So, it's like I said, so the analogy I heard was, like, success is like a slippery mountain. It's like you have to keep motion so that you can go forward. And as soon as you stop, you're going to slide down that mountain. So, yeah, I think that's what it takes to be great. Just continue to become a better version of yourself every single day.
Yeah. Oh, it's time for
I don't even know how else.
GWAG Tip of the Week with former pro basketball player, now trainer and coach, Marquis Navarre. Now, some tips, they're for the game. And some tips, they're for the game within the game. Yet all tips seek to adjust that mind frame. So let's get it. GWAG Tip of the Week. GWAG Tip of the Week. Tip of the Week.
Handle is with your feet. Ball control is with your hand. So if you watch when I dribble with him, the ball is what? Exposed. All right. What did you see first? My leg. So I'm always gonna hit him with my leg first. So like if you try to come for the ball, it's so far from him. So when I dribble the basketball, I never dribble here. Unless people are like all the way back. Like then I can dribble here. If guys are close to me, look where my dribble is. It's literally like behind my leg, right? So he got to come all the way around to get it. Or it's where pocket. And if I could go from behind my leg to outside my frame, let him have to chase it, and I could go here. But everything I do is going to be leg, leg, leg. See how you always see in my feet before you see the ball? So I'm constantly hiding the basketball.
Yeah, I have a saying that I always tell my players, like everything starts with the feet. You know, so your ball handling, finishing, shooting, everything starts with the feet. So, you know, just like everything else in life, like we move with our feet. You know, we walk from place to place with our feet. So when it comes to dribbling the ball, like I said, like your foot, because that's where your movement and your balance starts. You know, so you have to be able to attack people's feet to get them off balance. But the key to that at the same time is you have to remain on balance as you're doing it. A lot of players that you know struggle by getting around people, most of the time they're off balance while the defender's on balance because they're putting their feet too close or they're getting too wide from each other. So understanding like everything starts with the feet, and like it's important that you keep the balance and you get your defender off balance with their feet. And then again, you have to then connect your feet with your hands. So for me, again, your feet, your hips, and your shoulders are all your balancing kind of level. So because like your hand is an extension of your shoulder, that affects the second part of your balance. So for me, like I said, like the first thing is to read the feet and to get the feet off balance. But then the next step is understanding where the hand movement, you know, extension of the shoulder, where the hand movement is now. Now I can see where your momentum is carrying you and where your balance is going from there. So having that understanding of, like I said, connecting your feet and your hands are so important, where I think a lot of players who struggle, they might just attack with just the upper body. So I might move my arms here and there, but my feet are still in a solid base. Like my feet still keep me on balance. So, so it's important that you learn how to like get people's feet off balance, and then that momentum and just momentum, gravity, and all that is going to take them with their shoulders and their hands, and from there you just react. So when I make a move, I'm trying to get outside your feet. Now, if I don't see your chest or I don't see anything in front of me, then I'm going to go straight. You know, I'm going to just explode. But if I get outside your feet, but then I see your shoulder and your chest like move and it goes in front of me, then I know that your momentum is carrying that way. So then, again, like that's when I will change directions, like because it's just gravity, it's just momentum. So being able to read like I said, your like the whole body. But yeah, starting with the feet though. Like everything starts with the feet, and then from there, where does his other upper body take him?
Thanks again for tuning in to Game Within a Game podcast. Be sure to click, comment, subscribe, and share at Game Within a Game podcast on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Game Within a Game podcast. Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Click, comment, subscribe, and share. Game Within a Game with the one and only Marquis Navarre. Thanks for listening.